In the next few minutes, I'll show you what actually happens in the quarter of a second between typing a URL and seeing the lock icon. The four-step handshake that combines every primitive we've covered so far. What a cipher suite is and why it gets negotiated. What forward secrecy is and why TLS 1.3 finally made it the only option. The attacks the protocol was designed to stop. And why one 10-year-old protocol now carries almost every byte of meaningful traffic on the public internet. Welcome to Defense Stack. We produce one concept a day, and each one stacks on the last, building the framework for security together. Let's dive into TLS. 5 episodes in, we have every piece of cryptography the modern web depends on. Symmetric encryption to scramble bulk data fast. Asymmetric encryption to exchange a secret in the open. Hashing to detect tampering, signatures to prove a message hasn't been swapped, certificates to prove a public key actually belongs to who it claims. Today we look at the protocol that combines all 5 into a single negotiated session between 2 strangers on a hostile wire. That protocol is TLS, and it is the foundation that almost every byte on the modern internet rides on top of. TLS sits between the raw network and your application. When you load HTTPS, the browser opens a TCP connection, then layers TLS on top, and only then starts speaking HTTP inside it. The protocol gives you 3 things. Your traffic is encrypted, any tampering breaks the connection, and the server has to prove its identity with a certificate before it ever sees your request. What it doesn't hide is that you connected. DNS lookups and the server name leak which site you're talking to, just not what you said. Now here's the question. Your browser has never seen this server before. The cafe Wi-Fi is reading every byte. In about a quarter of a second, you and the server are sharing a secret nobody else can see. How? It's a 4-message exchange called the TLS 1.3 handshake. The browser sends a client hello, here are the cipher suites I support, here's a random number, and here's an ephemeral public key from elliptic curve Diffie-Hellman. The server replies with its own random number, its own ephemeral public key, and critically, its certificate, plus a signature proving that the certificate's owner is the one answering right now. Both sides combine the 2 ephemeral public keys into a shared secret using the Diffie-Hellman trick from episode 2. An attacker watching the wire sees both public keys go past, but without either private key, can't compute the shared secret. From that secret, both sides derive symmetric encryption keys, and every byte after this point is encrypted with episode 1's symmetric ciphers. The cipher suite is the menu of algorithms each side supports. A name like TLS _ AES 256 GCM _ SHA 384 tells you the bulk cipher is AES 256 in Galois counter mode, and the hash function for key derivation is SHA 384. In TLS 1.2, the suite also encoded the key exchange algorithm and the signature algorithm, which led to hundreds of combinations, many of them weak or broken. TLS 1.3 split those out into separate negotiation fields and trimmed the cipher suite list to a small handful, all of them safe by design. The protocol's safety improved more from removing options than from adding new ones. There's a property called forward secrecy that's worth stopping on. In old TLS, the client encrypted a session key directly with the server's long-term RSA public key. That meant anyone who later stole the server's private key could go back and decrypt every captured session. State-level adversaries do exactly this. Capture now, decrypt later. The fix is to generate a fresh ephemeral key pair for every handshake and throw it away when the session ends. The long-term certificate key is only used to sign the handshake, never to decrypt traffic. Stealing it lets you impersonate the server going forward, but every session that already finished stays opaque forever. TLS 1.3 made forward secrecy mandatory by removing every key exchange method that didn't have it. TLS 1.3 was a 10-year project that dropped in 2018, and it's the version your browser is almost certainly using right now. The 2 big wins are speed and simplicity. Speed, the handshake went from 2 round trips down to 1, cutting a noticeable chunk off every fresh page load. Simplicity, the protocol removed every weak primitive that had ever caused a vulnerability. Static RSA key exchange, gone. CBC mode without authentication, gone. Compression, gone. Renegotiation, gone. The motto was, if a feature ever caused a CVE, take it out. TLS 1.3 got safer by subtraction. TLS 1.3 added an even faster path for repeat visits. If your browser already talked to this server today, it can resume the session, skipping the certificate exchange and using a key derived from last time's secret. That's session resumption. Then there's zero RTT, zero round-trip data, where the client sends the first request on the very first packet, alongside the handshake. The page starts loading before the handshake even completes. The catch is that zero RTT data is replayable across server restarts, so it's safe for read requests but not for anything that changes state. Browsers and CDNs use it carefully. Every fast HTTPS site you visit is doing this without telling you. Every line of TLS 1.3 has the ghost of an attack behind it. Downgrade attacks tried to trick the two sides into negotiating an older version with known weaknesses. 1.3 fixes that by binding the chosen version into the server's signature, so any tampering breaks verification. Beast, Crime, and Breach abused TLS 1.0 and 1.2's CBC mode and compression, both gone. Heartbleed wasn't a TLS bug, it was an OpenSSL bug, but it leaked private keys for hundreds of thousands of servers and essentially proved why forward secrecy needed to be mandatory. Padding Oracle attacks were historically everywhere. Aid modes in 1.3 close that whole class. The protocol you use today looks the way it does because every alternative was tried, broken, and removed. And it's not just the algorithms. The wire format itself was redesigned so that a future attacker capturing today's TLS 1.3 traffic can't even tell which extensions were negotiated. The handshake hides what it's hiding. That's the level of paranoia that goes into a protocol almost everyone uses, but nobody thinks about. TLS isn't the only protocol that combines these primitives. There's a parallel one, used by every server administrator in the world, every CI pipeline that pushes code, every developer that opens a terminal, that solves the same problem with the same primitives but a completely different trust model. No certificate authorities, no browser-shipped root list. Instead, you and the server are the trust anchor. The first time you connect, you accept a fingerprint. And from then on, the protocol screams at you if anything about that fingerprint changes. That's the next concept in the stack, SSH. That's the end of this concept, but each video stacks on the last. Subscribe and we add the next layer tomorrow. Up next, SSH. Host keys, trust on first use, public key authentication, and the tunneling tricks that turn a remote shell into a Swiss Army knife. Thanks for watching.